When it comes to consistency, being able to stay within it usually helps us to develop a better posture and pattern in our lives. In our relationships and interactions with young children, consistency is very important so that children are able to have a foundation on which they can build and construct their understanding of the world around them. When things are inconsistent, children then find themselves having to readjust every single time and relearn and reconstruct how they can be present in that moment. Let's think for a moment of how we engage with consistency in our lives. Were we able to experience consistency when we were children? How did its presence, or the lack thereof, impact how we engage with the world? Picture this. You're in a classroom and there are about 4 or 5 children at an art table. Some are coloring, some are drawing, some are cutting, some are gluing. Each one of them is taking their ideas and putting them to practice with the materials in front of them. Some of the children finish their work, they decide to clean up and put their work on the drying rack to wait for it to dry. Another child who is still working sees that the other children have already moved on and wants to move on as well. Seeing this, you say to the child, "Oh, it looks like you're done and you look like you're ready to move on to something else. But what do you need to do before you leave the art table?" The child looks at you with a sort of frustrated face and decides to just stand there. So then you reiterate yourself and what you have observed. You say to the child, I see that you've been working on your art. You've been cutting paper, and now there's pieces of paper and there's scissors that are still on the table that you've been using. Now it looks like you want to join the other children to play. And so before you go play, there's something you need to do at this table. The child then still looks at you and gets even more frustrated. And so you very plainly say it. "I see that you want to go play with the other children. So please clean up what you have been using and you can go." This back and forth happens for about 2 to 3 minutes. And the child is not very happy. In the end, the child is able to clean up what they were working on, put their art on the drying rack, and go play. Later, as the child is playing, you walk over and you remind them, "Thank you for cleaning up the art table now, because it's all clean and you can play and you don't have to worry about it again." A few days later, this child is playing with another child and ends up having a dispute over a bicycle. They want to ride a bike, but instead of asking for it, they decide to put their hands on the handle to stop the child who is riding the bike from moving any further. They say to them that they want to use the bike. The younger child on the bike decides to continue riding and slightly runs over this child's foot. The child ends up crying and gets really upset. You walk over with the hopes to offer some support to this child and the other child on the bike. You figure out what's going on with the help of the two of them, and you explain to this child, "It sounds like you wanted to ride a bike, but I don't think grabbing the bike was the best way to tell this child that you wanted to ride the bike. I wonder how you could use another way to let them know." This child, kind of upset, begins to grin at you and doesn't want to move. You ask the child, I'm wondering if you still want to use this bike, because you wanted to use it earlier, but now you're kind of just standing here." The child doesn't respond, and so you say to the child who is riding the bike, "Well, it looks like they don't want to ride the bike anymore, so you can go off." The child then storms off and does something else. A few incidents like these happen over the course of the week, and you're starting to feel that you're always on this child's case. After taking some time to reflect, you realize that you may be on this child's case, but you aren't on their case because you're out to get them, but you want to help them understand and better engage with the other children and other individuals at school. You begin to notice that this child slowly starts to avoid you and even begins to stop doing things when you slowly approach. Let's take a second and think about what is happening between you and this child. What might the child be understanding about your presence and your interactions with them? Although at times our intention and posture is to help children understand and better engage with the other individuals, this may not always be very clearly communicated to the child. And so at times, we as adults need to take an extra step to remind them, I see what your intention is, I see what you want to do, and that you have an idea. But the ways that you are choosing to express your ideas and go about what you want to do may not be the best. And so I want to help you think about these things. Now, in a child's eyes, you kind of just seem like someone who is disrupting their ideas, disrupting what they want to do, instead of helping them. And with that in mind, you may begin to feel like you're being too harsh on this child, or that this child doesn't like you and it doesn't make you feel very good. At which point, we can sometimes shift our posture to then sort of give in to the ways that this child wants to do their things, even if they may not be the best decision or best way to help them engage. This is where we as facilitators and supporters of children's interactions need to be very mindful, because it's in this inconsistency that may occur that then leads the child to understand that their way of behavior is accepted and that they can get their way if they use negative behaviors. And so, as much as we may want this child to like us, or we may want our interactions to become easier, it's important to stay consistent within the posture that you have with children. To remind them that, what they're doing is not okay, but what their intention is what is important. And you, as an individual who is helping them facilitate, wants to help them to be able to do what they want to do, but do it in a way that is pro-social and respects the other individuals around them. As we are consistent in our approach, as well as the things we are communicating through our approach, then we can understand how we can care for this child while keeping in mind who they are and what they're having issues with. Fast forward about 3 weeks later, this child and I, our relationships began to shift. They began to understand why my posture was the way it was. They began to see that I wasn't just holding the standard with them, rather, I was holding the standard with everyone, because my intention is that everyone is able to be within the classroom, share the same space, knowing that they are respected, knowing that they are safe, they are cared for, and that they matter. As they were able to see this, they started to be more intentional with me, just as I was being intentional with them. Our relationship was able to grow and become nurtured with a mutual understanding and respect for each other in this space. As we are consistent with children, as we have a consistency that cares for them, then they're able to have a solid foundation where they can construct their understanding of themselves, their relationships with others, and the world around them. This then allows them the confidence and the skills to watch, think, be.